Wow, we have a incredible lag. I'm looking at another screen behind, and it's about a full 5 count behind. Very odd.
Wow.
But we are live on YouTube. I am going to pop up in a Rumble window just to make sure that we're live there as well. And how is everybody doing today? Can people let us know if the sound is okay? We've had...
we're having some technical difficulties.
Electricity and everything else.
Electricity, all kinds of mishaps, bizarre mishaps.
Madness, pure madness. And yes, okay, Rumble, we are good. So everybody, welcome to the show. And
holy shit.
One good, wonderful thing about today, and there's a nice reminder, but Mark,
what?
Across 50,000 subscribers.
It's a Rubicon of sorts. I mean, it's an embarrassment to me and my family that we only have 50,000 subscribers. I don't really like to talk about it.
Oh,
okay. The reality of it is, like I said, there's 500. How many views have we had? 5 million.
4.5 million.
4.5 million. So it's 1 out of 100 people decides to subscribe.
Something like that.
Right. That's I'm humiliated as a man and embarrassed to be affiliated with YouTube. I don't tell anybody we have 50,000 subscribers and 5 million viewers because they would laugh in my face as 1 out of 100 human beings watch the show and decide to subscribe. 99 out of 100 tell us to go fuck ourselves. But you're celebrating it, so I guess I'll celebrate it too.
Why not?
Why not?
You know, it is a number.
I mean, how much does that guy, what's his name, the British guy, have, the comic?
Oh, Russell Brand.
How many does he
I lost
have?
count. I don't know. He was like at 6 last time I looked.
6 million subscribers?
Something like that.
Right. So everyone who watches his show subscribes. Everyone who watches our show decides not to subscribe mathematically.
It's not quite.
Right. He's got 100% turnover of viewers to subscribers. We have 0. Right?
Not quite.
Well, I mean, close to him, you know.
Oh, either way, we are thankful for all 50,000 of you.
Oh no, that's goes without saying. I agree with you. I'm just saying it should be more. That's all I can say. It should.
Yes, it counts for us, Jerry. Thank you.
Because if it had 50,000 viewers, I would just go, oh, 50,000 viewers, 50,000 subscribers. But that's not really the case, is it, Hunley? It's 5 million freaking viewers and
it's 5 million views on 100 videos, so it is a little bit or a couple hundred videos, so it's not quite that, but we're getting there. We're halfway to 100K. We'll get to 100K.
That took 1.5 years.
Yes, which is pretty good. I'm the optimism of the day. Yeah, if you can't tell where the technical difficulties came from, it
came from my end. Everything started breaking in my house, having no connection to anything. Like one of my lights went out, and then I was fixing it. Then I stepped on my glasses and crushed them. Then I knocked over the coffee and spilled that. Then the papers went flying. Then my plug for the computer fell out, and the computer turned itself off. Had to reset the clock. I was just laughing as to the domino effect of everything having no connection to each other happening at once,
Well, this is a good point. Is this the Yiddish word of the day?
Yeah, go with that. Why not? Go with fetch. Go with fetch. That's a good. Thank you.
As we are starting out the show.
There was an old Rodney joke, and he said, I woke up. I went to button my shirt. The button fell off. I went to buckle my pants. The buckle fell off. I went to open the door. The doorknob fell off. I was afraid to go to the bathroom.
Oh, crazy. All right. So today's show, though, is essentially another obscure guy, except he's not an obscure guy. It just seems to be publicly obscure from what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the guy, this guy here, who's got multiple names, but what is his official name? Curtis Laverne Crawford, right?
Yes.
AKA Larry Crawford, aka Larry Crawford, aka Larry Crawford.
And it's confusing. It's confusing enough that I had his name still misspelled in the title.
No. Yours is actually correct. That's the correct spelling.
No. I had an O on the second
O
part.
is correct. That's right. O is correct.
Oh, I thought it was CR.
Only in Dallas did he use the Crawford. You are correct, Eric.
Okay.
Right. No, I was going to tell you that, but I didn't have a chance to talk to you because my operation was falling apart. But you are absolutely correct. It's O-R-D. He made it A-R-D simply for his trip to Dallas.
Oh, good Lord.
Kind of like Jim Braden changed his name and got a driver's license to go to Dallas. You are correct. It is O-R-D.
Okay, see, but there you go. It's very confusing.
Right. Curtis Laverne Crawford, which I'm saying Crawford. It could be Crawford, but that sounds totally insane. But
I was thinking like Crawdaddy, down
right.
Or Crayford. I don't know. Weird dude. Very, very very handsome fellow.
Yeah, did you put up that picture of him? Because he's a weird guy. I mean, he had no front teeth. So he must have had some front teeth when he started, but he ends up with no front teeth, and he never smiled because oh yeah. So you could kind of tell there that's the FBI photo when he was apprehended. But let's just back up as to where this guy comes from. He was born in Michigan, but he was raised in California and lived in Oregon. But he lived in the San Joaquin Valley, San Francisco, Berkeley. So he's a California guy, and joins the army like in 1958 or 9, right? 1959. He goes in, gets kicked out after like, I want to say 12 to 16 months, right, Eric? And he gets some sort of discharge. It's kind of like a dishonorable discharge, but it's a Section 8. And I was talking to Eric about this. Yeah, there's a copy of it.
It's not, technically speaking, it's a general under honorable conditions. And when I was in the military, so it's been a minute, essentially, well, this says Crawford. So God, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, a general is essentially, we're gonna part ways here. You're not a great soldier because you're not getting an honorable discharge.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of another category, and this has two subcategories. You have a general under honorable conditions, which means for legal sake, it's pretty much the equivalent of honorable, but you're kind of a problem. And then you have general under less than honorable conditions or other than honorable conditions, which isn't quite the same as a dishonorable. A dishonorable usually means you serve time and you're locked up in Leavenworth or something, and then you're released. So,
right. So this guy, it was under some sort of sexual perversion, from what I understand. It was some sort of sexual deviancy. And since there weren't any women around, I presume the sexual deviancy involved men. This is my interpretation of his sexual perversion, whatever it was.
When he get that minor across the state line, which may be
right. That was yeah. Later on, he gets a minor across the state line thing. He is married to a woman who is a lesbian, so he's got that going for him. And then she had a kid from another marriage, and then I don't know if he denies that was his kid, but the second kid denies that it's his, but he signs the birth certificate anyway, so he does take on that kid. But his brother, interestingly enough, was a military lifer who was a staff sergeant, Eric, named Edward Crawford. And I did not know that he had a brother until later on in my research. And the brother is kind of interesting because the brother will come into play a little bit later on, explaining the military background of himself and his brother. Now, Crawford, the younger Crawford, who is Larry Crawford, has some interesting jobs. He works for a company called Stuart Hill out of Berkeley. And Stuart, he doesn't even remember working for this company because he tells the Warren Commission none of this stuff. The Warren Commission presents him. Just so you know, he and Ruth Paine are the two longest testifiers in the entire Warren Commission hearings. His testimony in the Warren Commission goes on for 3 days. It's over 75 pages long. And you just go, well, I've never even heard of this guy, Mark. How could there be so much testimony of this one guy? And that's why we're doing the show, Eric and I, because of this guy's obscurity, but he's not obscure to the Warren Commission. He gets a job. He comes out of Hollywood, the last place he was living, and he goes to Dallas, Texas in October 1963. So why does he go there? Who knows why? In 1958, when he gets out of the Army, he gets involved in a project, and this is brought up by the Warren Commission. He's not even bringing this up, where he says he's a surveyor for the FAA. And I'm going like, okay, that's weird, because he's really a roustabout in the Carnival circuit. Right. He will go to this Carnival in a couple of minutes. But before he goes to this Carnival, this state fair in Dallas, he will be part of the FAA, which I guess you need some sort of clearance to do that. He says he's a surveyor, and they ask him in the Warren Commission, what were you surveying? And he said, I can't remember. Okay. So at that point, the FAA was involved in something called Operation Bongo. Operation Bongo was Operation Bongo 1, Operation Bongo 2, which apparently Crawford was involved in. And you say, well, what could that be? Okay, this bizarre program, and I don't even know how this ties in, so I'm wearing my dot tie today because there's so many freaking dots to this story that I don't even know where they go. But this cat was working on Operation Bongo, where they flew supersonic jets. The FAA, I don't even know if you know this, Eric. The FAA flew supersonic jets over towns in America to see what the damage would be. And I don't mean like physical damage. I mean like auditory.
Like sonic booms?
Sonic booms, complete sonic booms, nonstop, right. And they would fly them mostly in Nevada, or Nevada, if you people are upset about that. So he was in Nevada doing this, surveying whatever the surveying was with some sort of clearance that you needed to do this for Operation Bongo. Operation Bongo 2 will later go to the Northeast and do the same thing, if you follow what I'm saying about this. This is the most bizarre thing I've uncovered about Crawford so far, this unusual Operation Bongo, because as many researchers have indicated, why and how could he get this job after being kicked out of the Army for sexual perversion? Okay. He will later claim, which we'll get into in a second. I'll wait on what his later claims were, because other people will back him up, including his brother. But okay, just to get that out of the way, that was his last job before his new job, which is to go to this state fair in Dallas, where he is a barker at the Carnival, barking for two particular acts, the snake woman and the two-headed baby. Now, here's a depiction of the snake woman out of Thailand. I don't think this is the original snake woman from 1963, but two of the things that he was barking was the two-headed baby. And I found this doll because if we put up the real two-headed babies, I think everybody would throw up. So I found why they have a two-headed baby doll. I have no idea. Maybe it's for situations like this.
No, it's a souvenir. You know, you go see the two-headed baby. You want to take one home yourself. Get your doll. I mean,
okay.
Hey, we have Oswald. It's branding.
Okay, so he has the two-headed baby barking job, and he's also barking for the snake woman, right? You go, that's pretty good. I used to be a surveyor. I had a security clearance. I was in the military. By the way, when he was in the military, he was in a place called West Germany, and he was a marksman and a sniper and a rifleman, possibly under the tutelage of a famous guy named General Edwin A. Walker, who we did a separate episode about that Hunley has a book paid for through my PayPal book fund, I think.
Couple of them.
So anyway, so when he was in West Germany, there's very little documentation of what he was doing. And he claimed to have been a sniper in West Germany in the military, and that's where Walker's regiment was, the rifle regiment that Walker ran. But we'll get back to that in a second. The reality of it is he goes to Dallas and becomes a barker in the State Fair. And you go, well, that's a real come down. I used to be a surveyor in Operation Bongo. But getting back to 1960, when he's in Berkeley, when he's working for a company named Stewart-Hill, he does not remember working for Stewart-Hill because the owner of this company was a right-wing, anti-free speech government agent, capitalist, millionaire, who organized protests against the free speech movement at Berkeley from the right. And there were riots at Berkeley in 1960. This is a side issue, but it's going to tie in. So I'm putting it out there right now because this guy, the owner of the company that Crawford worked for, hired agent provocateurs to bust up and create a riot at Berkeley University at the beginning of the free speech movement when they were having House American Activity Committee hearings still in 1960 at Berkeley. So he does not even remember working for this company when the Warren Commission interviews him. The Warren Commission brings up Stewart-Hill Company, and he goes, what? And it's the same period of time, the same exact months that he's working as a surveyor in Operation Bongo, which, again, he doesn't bring up. The Warren Commission brings this up.
He's got bad memory for his past employment.
Right. No, he has no memory for his past employment except working as a barker in the state fair in Texas, the Texas State Fair with the two-headed baby doll. Okay. So while you're still with me, folks, it's a little convoluted, but it's a great story. The two-headed baby doll Barker and the snake woman Barker, Larry, Laverne, Curtis, Crawford, or whatever his name is, gets approached by a guy to help him sell these twist boards that you stand on and spin around to twist to lose weight. And he needs a barker because this guy has an exhibit at the Texas State Fair called How Hollywood Makes Movies. Now, I have no idea what that exhibit is about. I've never been able to find that out. The title of the booth itself, is How Hollywood Makes Movies. But in the booth is this twister device that you stand on and spin around, doing like a chubby checker twist, which is what the name comes from. And it's being sold by a guy named Jacob Rubenstein, a.k.a. Jack Ruby, a.k.a. Sparky, a.k.a. Pinky. He's selling this thing. Here he is a little later in life, while incarcerated in the Dallas County Jail, obviously.
Well, it's 63. It's the same year.
Right. It is the same year. So this is moments after, must be November 25th or something. 26th.
Yeah, 24th.
Somewhere in December. So he hires Larry Crawford to be a barker at his exhibit at the Texas State Fair. So you just go, well, how much does Larry make? Larry doesn't make anything. There's no salary for Larry. He is involved and paid in cigarettes and beer. Okay, so where does Larry get to live? Larry has absolutely nowhere to live. He lives in the Carousel Club. And you go, really? You could live in the Carousel Club? Well, apparently he sleeps upstairs and he does these errands for Jack Ruby where he feeds his children, the dachshunds that he has, all the dogs, and he goes to Jack Ruby's apartment and he goes back and forth and he runs errands and blah, blah, blah. And he is a guy who is an errand boy for Jack Ruby. So it turns out that he has an incredible resemblance to someone named Lee Harvey Oswald. And everywhere that Ruby goes with Larry Crawford, Ruby introduces him as Oswald. Not only that, he then claims that Oswald came into the club. This is Crawford and Oswald. You could see on the left, that picture there is one of the examples of their lookalikeness. And in fact, the FBI showed pictures of Crawford to witnesses after the assassination, and they said that was Oswald. So
they're similar. They definitely look similar.
Yeah. The people who claimed that Oswald was with Ruby, like 10 out of 15 of them were really identifying Crawford. And the reason the Warren Commission did that is they wanted to dispel any connection between Ruby and Oswald. So they kept saying, and there is truth to this, that Crawford and Ruby together were not Oswald and Ruby together, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay. That doesn't mean they didn't know each other, because Crawford would later say that Oswald came into the Carousel Club and was astonished that they even looked alike. Like he said, well, we kind of look alike.
Okay, so he noted it. So
yeah, he noted it himself.
So it's like a reverse alibi. Like, no, that wasn't Oswald with Ruby. That was the other guy that he called Oswald, who was with Ruby, but not really Oswald with Ruby.
So a woman named Ruth Payne testifies to the Warren Commission that no man looked more like Oswald. Out of the blue, she says no man looked more like Oswald than Larry Crawford. Okay, this is Ruth Payne, who she never met, by the way. She never met Larry, as far as we know. She may have met Larry Crawford. Who the hell knows who met who at this point? But Crawford is living upstairs at the Carousel Club. And he's mopping up. He's doing stuff, whatever he's doing. He will occasionally go over to Ruby's house, where a guy, a 50-year-old white male, who is a flagrant, I don't even know how to say this, homosexual, right? Who lives with Ruby. Now, you can make your own connection out of that this gay man is living with Ruby, but again, he pays no rent and he cooks for Ruby and lives with Ruby. That's George Senator. George Senator and Ruby and Crawford are a trio that runs around all the time together. Okay. So stick with me, folks, because it's going to get a little weird. So you got these three running around together, and what happens? Well, the president gets assassinated. But before he gets assassinated, at 10:50 in the morning of a Friday, November 22nd, there is a pickup truck. I think it's like a 1958 old kind of green pickup truck that's right below the picket fence where Hunley and I were when we visited Dallas. Right? A little bit north of the X, a little bit past the X, but right below the picket fence. Now, this truck is supposedly broken down. So a woman comes by, 23-year-old beautiful woman named Julia Ann Mercer, and she is going to Fort Worth, where she's going to work. And Julia Ann Mercer is married to a state senator from Illinois, a Republican state senator from Illinois. So she's not just some floozy, driving by. And she's stuck in traffic because this truck is in the right lane where we were standing. Remember, Eric, on the same side that we were on, the picket fence side. So the truck is 2 wheels in the street, 2 wheels up on the curb. And she looks at the guy, and lo and behold, it's Jack Ruby. Now, how do we know it's Jack Ruby? Well, it turns out that she identifies Jack Ruby on Saturday, the day after the assassination, to the FBI. Not after he kills Oswald. No. She identifies him on Saturday, November 23rd, and they grill the hell out of Julia Ann Mercer. Okay, we'll get back to her in a second. But let's get back to the truck on the side of the road. There's 2 guys in the truck. There's a young guy and there's Jack Ruby. The young guy gets out of the truck, takes a thing out of the back of the truck, and she says it's the length of a gun and it's a gun case, okay? The guy walks up the hill to the grassy knoll and goes behind the picket fence with this gun case. Okay. There's 3, she said, Dallas police officers standing there on the road who are oblivious to this. They're right on the grass, not even looking at this truck. One of them apparently phoned in for a AAA, whatever the AAA was of the time, to come and get rid of the truck. But another truck shows up and starts pushing that later. As the guy comes back, Ruby gets back in the truck and doesn't start or won't move. Another truck shows up and pushes that truck under the underpass and into oblivion, wherever that truck goes. And there's no signs on the truck, no nothing. So when she's interrogated by the FBI, they show her some pictures, and she says they don't show pictures of Crawford, they don't show pictures of Oswald, because they presume Oswald is up in the Texas School Book Depository, and they don't want to muck up the waters by having this woman say that this is Oswald. So they just show her pictures of Ruby, and she picks out the pictures of Ruby out of this thing. She does it 5 times. They bring her back 5 times, Eric, for interrogation, 5 times. And she then, a number of years later, in 1967, is shown her statement by Jim Garrison. They forged her signature, and the notary public, it's her signature, the woman. There was no notary public there. They did a notary public stamp some other time later, and it looks like the signature of Julia Ann Mercer is the same as the woman who's the notary public. They altered her statement just like the FBI has done in Russiagate and all the other modern things. In other words, she says, I identified this man. And they wrote, she didn't identify this man. They just literally, just like Russiagate, just like we've seen, the same FBI altered her statement to reflect that she didn't identify anybody.
It's only 2 letters and an apostrophe.
No, but there's other things they altered, not just the 2 letters. And she said that she could not identify Jack Ruby, blah, blah, blah. So she points this out to Jim Garrison, who comes to her house and says, as a former, it's in the movie and it's in JFK, as a former FBI agent, I find this very hard to believe, Miss Mercer. And she said, that's not my signature. There was no notary there. You can believe whatever you want, Jim Garrison. Well, he didn't believe it. Jim Garrison didn't believe it. But what Jim Garrison did believe was that Crawford was a shooter. And he believed that Crawford went up behind the grassy knoll and was one of the shooters. And that, my friends, is something that a lot of people don't realize. Jim Garrison also believed that the killer of Tippit was Larry Crawford. We're going to get into that right now, because what they do, this is really bizarre. What George Senator, Larry Crawford, and Jack Ruby do the night of the assassination is they close the Carousel Club and they go, I don't know how to explain this, but they go and they find a billboard that says impeach Earl Warren. And Jack Ruby flips out that this billboard says impeach Earl Warren. And he says this is going to give Dallas a bad name. Like the assassination did not give it a bad name earlier in the day, right? This is now 2:00 in the morning. They're driving around and he gives Crawford his camera to take a picture of it, right? Of the billboard. So Crawford is now with George Senator and Jack Ruby driving around Dallas looking for this giant billboard with presumably a Minox camera, which we later see George Senator at a parade in some footage that I found that's up in Baylor that I got to go up and look at. It's on the web from FAU, the TV news, which shows him and George Senator in front of a department store with the Minox camera, the spy camera. And George Senator is playing with it while Ruby's playing around with his hair, while some jazz trio that worked in the Carousel is playing on a bandstand in front of him. So he has a Minox camera. Why? I have no idea. But Neiman Marcus sold the Minox. It was very expensive. So Ruby had a Minox. They take Larry Crawford and Senator, and they go find this sign. So he says to Crawford, allegedly, this is going to give Dallas a bad name, impeach Earl Warren. So he takes a photo of it, and he looks at the there's the footage, Eric. That's George Senator, by the way. That's George Senator on the left.
Jack Ruby right there with his hair.
That's
right?
Jack Ruby with the black fedora. There it is, my friends. There it is. And that's the jazz trio playing with a black jazz singer who later became pretty famous. I forget her name right now. She ended up playing with Count Basie and that's George Senator with the Minox. How do you like that? That's from WFAA out of Dallas from their collection up at Baylor.
And there's Jack Ruby right there.
Mm-hmm.
Combing his hair. Anyway, I had it, so I was like, let me grab it real quick while we were talking.
Okay. So there's, you see the neck of the bass, but and a horn player. So anyway, they go and find this billboard. And the billboard, it says in the corner, box 1754. And he says, all right, let's, now, this is now 5 o'clock in the morning, right? On Friday, and he's bereaved that Kennedy's been killed, if you follow that crazy storyline, right? 5 o'clock in the morning, he goes to the post office, right? To find out who has box 1754, right? And there's a night postman there. I don't know. There's a night guy there who says, I can't tell you that. That's private, right? He goes, what? He says, yeah. He says, I can't give you that information. Somebody's got that box. And he looks, and the next box is 1742. And 1742 was the P.O. box for the ad that said, welcome to Dallas, Mr. President. You know, the treason ad, right? Mm-hmm. And that is signed by Bernard Weissman. That was a fictitious signature. And Ruby says they're going to blame the Jews for the killing of Kennedy. Who is this Weissman? So he looks in the slot of 1792, which is right next to 1754 in the same post office. And he sees stacks of mail and gets pissed off that people are actually mailing money to these post office boxes that he finds to be offensive. You can't make this up, folks. And then they go to the Southland coffee shop from there because they're all stressed out and they got to go to the coffee shop, right? After grilling the guy who works in the post office, who won't give up. Oh, by the way, Crawford has an incredible blinking disease where if he was your friend, you would call him Blinky. But I don't know if that's his nickname, but he's a blinker. He's one of those guys who's a blinker, nonstop blinking, right? So you've got, the only reason I mention this is you've now got Blinky and Pinky together with George Senator running around at 5 o'clock in the morning doing these crazy things the night that Kennedy's killed. Just follow this if you can, people. So they drop off Crawford at the Carousel Club. And then George Senator, allegedly, with Ruby, go back to his apartment. Okay, on South Ewing, 203 South Ewing. So, okay, this is according to Crawford now. According to Crawford, he says to them, what's the point of even going to bed? It's 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning now. So he goes back to the office in the Carousel Club, and the dogs are barking. And the dogs are barking, all his 7 or 8 dachshund, his children, Ruby's children. One of the jobs that Crawford has is he has to feed the dogs. But alas, Eric, no more food. So at 8:30 in the morning, he calls up Ruby, who's fast asleep, who says, you son of a bitch, how dare you call me? It's 8:30 in the morning, you freak. And he slams the phone down and he says to himself, I got to get out of here, right? This is Crawford's storyline, right? There's a couple of Ruby's children. I don't know about the cat, but that was his wife, the one on the right. I forget her name. That was his wife. And then he's got a couple of others there that are his children. So he will later show these to his rabbi. He will later show these to his lawyer. He will later drive over to the Dallas police station to kill Oswald and leave the dogs in the car and kissing them goodbye as he goes off to kill Oswald. You can't make this stuff up, folks. This is all original research that you can take and tell your children someday or grandchildren. Okay.
And see the Jack Ruby episode where we go
and see the Jack Ruby episode, because some of this is in there. Now, Jack Ruby's addicted to dexedrine at the time. He's also got syphilis, and he's taking hair treatments because he's got a disappearing hairline. And so he's doing the hair treatment, the syphilis treatment, and the dexedrine gay weight loss treatment, because a lot of gays and a lot of people who wanted to lose weight took dexedrine back then. It was like the main thing. So he was popping dexedrine spancels all day. That's why he's up at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's where I'm going with this. He closes the Carousel Club. Now, keep in mind, nobody else closed the Carousel Club, just him. I mean, nobody else closed their other clubs, just him with the Carousel Club. Okay, so Crawford takes $5 out of the cash register. He's got $2 on him. And in the middle of November 23rd, he decides to hitchhike to northern Michigan. Okay, so he hitchhikes out of Dallas, Texas, November 23rd, in the dead of winter, to the frozen tundra of northern Michigan, on the way stopping off in Chicago, on the way stopping off in Detroit, on the way sees his family. And then this is all hitchhiking, which I guess, you know, if you saw a guy like that, you'd want to pick him up immediately with no teeth, you know, on the run from an assassination. But somehow...
Friendlier times, Mark.
Somehow, yeah, this is before the summer of love, keep in mind, when you can pick up girls in cut off jeans, right? So he somehow ends up in a cabin owned by his sister, 1 inch from the Canadian border. 1 inch. I mean, literally, you could throw a rock and hit Viva's ancestors in the face, right? So why he's up there, nobody knows. So what happens? He left a letter behind in the Carousel Club, not addressed to anybody, just among his personal belongings, addressed from his sister to him from the address of that cabin. Cut to the FBI. Driving all the way to Michigan. Stopping off at Governor Whitmer's ancestors. They get to the cabin and they arrest Larry, Laverne, and Shirley Crawford, right? So the photo that you're going to show, that color photo that you showed, that photo was the one you showed before?
Yeah, Smiley.
Yeah, like Smiley. Show that again. That photo was taken upon his apprehension by the FBI in Michigan. That's where he was taken. That's the jacket he was wearing. It's kind of a forerunner to a members only type jacket. And that's going to come into play here in this jacket. So stay with me. This is a crazy story, man. So he's arrested by the FBI or detained or whatever, and begins this interrogation process.
And he looks very confused in this.
Yeah, picture. He's a little baffled why they would be after him of all people. You know what I mean? So the FBI says very simply, why did you flee? Right? And the Warren Commission says the same thing. By the way, the Warren Commission, the reason it takes 3 days to interview him for 29,000 questions or something over 3 days, 75 pages, is they take, what does that say?
So he was the first member.
He's the first member. Yeah. They take Ruby's phone book, and in the interrogation of him by the Warren Commission, they go over every single number in the phone book. Have you ever heard of Jimmy the Squeeze Luigi? He goes, no. How about Tommy Lefty Morellis? No, never heard of him. They go down every single number and name in the book, grilling him about Ruby, not about his own activity. But they do get to him fleeing. Bert Griffin, who will later become a judge, Griffin was one of his interrogators. And Griffin later said to the House Assassinations Committee in the late 70s, he was always tortured by the fact that they couldn't understand why he fled. So they asked him, the Warren Commission and the FBI in 1963, later in 1964, why did you flee? And he said, I did not want to be blamed or caught up in this thing. And they said, caught up in the assassination of JFK? Why would you be caught up in that? Now, keep in mind, he flees on Saturday, November 23rd. This is before Ruby kills Oswald on Sunday, the 24th. So his answer makes no sense, Eric. And it never made sense to the Warren Commission. It never made sense to Jim Garrison. And it never made sense to me because it's a crock of shit. He flees on Saturday, but his brother says, no. He fled on Sunday after Oswald was killed by Ruby. This whole story I just told you was a crock of shit. He didn't hitchhike anywhere. He had a driver who took him to Chicago to meet with one of Ruby's friends. Okay. Oh, yes. The plot thickens, my friend. And then on to Detroit, where he meets with some other mafia associates, later his family, and later flees to a cabin in the woods where he's going to hide out. Right? Now, let's go backwards a couple of days, because on Friday afternoon, there's a guy sitting in a police car on 10th and Patton, as Eric and I covered when we were there, and this is J.D. Tippit. Now, if you listen to some of the witnesses, there was a man in a sport coat with a fedora, and another guy. A number of witnesses said there were two men who executed J.D. Tippit. There were two men at the scene, and they did not have a car. They did not arrive in a car. They did not flee in a car. They came and left on foot, running when they got there, running when they left. And if you run or jog, you can get to South Ewing from 203 South Ewing, and I've done this, to 10th and Patton in 6 minutes. The walk, if you walked from Ruby's apartment, if you show that again, if you walk from Ruby's apartment to 10th and Patton, walking, it's 12 minutes. 12 minutes. I don't know what it says
20,
there.
20.
That's a different, you're pointing at a different area. That is not the apartment. That's another map.
Oh, okay.
There's another map. That's not, the red dot on the bottom is not 203 South Ewing. It's up north.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go back to the.
That's a separate apartment. But 203 South Ewing, this looks more like it, I guess.
Well, Ruby's apartment's over here, 223 South Ewing.
Right. Okay. Anyway, to make a long story short, the walk is 12 minutes, jogging is 6. And people believe, and I'm one of them, that these two guys are involved in the assassination of J.D. Tippit. Now, why did they kill Tippit? It could be to frame Oswald. They could be heading to the Texas theater to kill Oswald. We don't really know, but there's a lot of speculation regarding that. But I believe that, and so did Jim Garrison. Jim Garrison believed that Crawford was the killer of J.D. Tippit, and I agree with Jim Garrison on this. I believe that the killer was this guy, Larry Crawford, along with Ruby, and I believe that Ruby gave the mobster coup de grace shot in the back of the head. There's 3 shots in Tippit in the back across the bow of the car, and then a coup de grace, for reasons that nobody knows, a mobster shot to the head, and I think that Jack Ruby did that. And I think Crawford did the other part of the shooting. I think they then fled back to 223 South Ewing, the apartment of Jack Ruby. And then a day later, or maybe 2 days later, Crawford flees. Now, if he flees on Saturday, it could be because of the Tippit killing, if he flees on Saturday. If he flees on Sunday, like his brother said, it could be that he's got knowledge of the Oswald killing that's coming up by Ruby. But either way, there's a lot of bullshit involved in this thing, and he may have been a shooter at the picket fence, the grassy knoll, because he will tell people people years later that before he went to Dallas, when he lived in San Francisco, he was a hitman for the mob up in San Francisco. This is what he says. And then his brother, who was a lifetime military guy on a pension as a sergeant, said that his brother was mixed up in the assassination far more than has been revealed. This is the brother Edward now, right? And Edward said that Crawford personally knew Tippit. Okay, that's from the brother, who does not have a dog in this hunt.
Wow.
So Crawford worked with the FAA, joins the Army in 1958. He's kicked out in November 1959. He claims years later that he was a demolition expert in Germany and was sent to do jobs, quote unquote, in Berlin, Eric, and also in Laos in 1959 when we were having a series of events in Laos and Cambodia at the time. This is what he claims. So there's more to this guy. He said there's no written record of my activity in Laos or Cambodia or Vietnam, but I do have the scars to show that I was in demolition. And he pulls up his pants to this investigator, and he shows that half his leg was blown off by presumably some munitions that went bad. You know what I mean? So I could be a crock of shit. But the reality of it is that Julia Ann Mercer sees Jack Ruby in that truck with Crawford at the picket fence. And that's never really been explained to anyone. That was never in the Warren Commission. She was never called by the Warren Commission. Nobody's ever explored this in the Warren Commission report. They just left it out. And the FBI, you know, took her statements. They grilled her 5 times. It's not like this is some obscure person who was never touched by the FBI. You know, her thing was quite public. Now, in 1994, a guy, this is 1994, a guy in an off-Broadway play begins to talk about Crawford's involvement in the assassination in 1994. And it's called, the play is called America, and he's reading it from the Warren Commission, the testimony from the 75 pages in the Warren Commission. He begins to read them on stage, and his name was Mort Sahl. And Mort Sahl, who is yet another episode in our collection of videos, you could talk about and see the Mort Sahl connection, who went to work for Jim Garrison as an investigator. Mort Sahl in 1994, in an off-Broadway play called Mort Sahl's America, where he had the full 26 volumes on stage with him, opened up to the section on Crawford and said, "This has been bothering me my entire life." And that's Larry. Right. All right. That's Mort Sahl. So there's more to this story than meets the eye. And Crawford said, there's Mort Sahl, the comic versus CIA, which I highly recommend as one of our episodes.
And that's, I think, actually in the office where he's working with Jim Garrison, that picture.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, he was deputized by Garrison as a deputy DA of New Orleans. So that was kind of interesting. So Crawford, get back to the Tippit killing, which is where I wanted to go with this. The Tippit killing, they find a Oswald wallet there. Now, the Oswald wallet is shown to
another one.
Yeah. That Oswald wallet is found, and it's filmed by FAU, which is why I want to go down and see the footage, because I've seen the footage before. It's since been scrubbed off the internet, but I remember seeing the footage in the mid 80s or early 90s online or somewhere. And it shows with audio, Captain Westbrook, who will later go on to run Operation Phoenix and be part of the CIA in Vietnam, Westerbrook. He will open this wallet and say, has anybody heard of Alex Heidel, right? And the wallet is supposed to be Oswald's wallet, and it disappears because when they arrest Oswald, moments later, a half hour later, he's got his own wallet on him. And that wallet is taken apart at the Dallas police station, where Captain Fritz grills him on everything in his wallet. So he couldn't have 2 wallets. So they had to make this wallet disappear, the one I just discussed, which is found at the murder scene of J.D. Tippit. And they mysteriously get rid of that first wallet. You can't make this up, folks. But here's the twist. Underneath a car at the next door car lot in the neighborhood right there, it's still a lot of car lots there in Oak Hill, the neighborhood where the Texas Theater is, a bunch of car lots there, and they're still there. And so anyway, underneath the car, they find a white jacket. And the white jacket, if Eric could bring up a picture, there's the car, right? There's the car. Now, nobody knows who found the jacket, because what Dallas police do is they do a circle jerk. They did this with the rifle. They do it with the bullets. They do it with a lot of crap. They never say who found what. They point the finger at each other, and they try successfully to break up the chain of custody on a lot of evidence when they're doing a frame. The same thing happens with this jacket. Westbrook says somebody gave it to him. He doesn't remember. There's a cop who says this other guy found it, this other cop. And what they're doing is trying to create distance between them and planted evidence. Dallas police does this all the time. They do it into the 1980s with a Thin Blue Line, which I recommend as a documentary by Errol Morris, where you will see Guy Rose, the same detective who's involved in the lie detector test of Buell Wesley Frazier is the guy who frames a man in the 1980s for murder, and same Dallas police force. Now, this, I believe, is a photograph of them looking at the wallet.
Yeah. I was going to tell you. So I don't have the film, but I managed to find it.
Right.
Still.
I remember the film. Now, we're going to find that film come hell or high water, because that film exists and the audio exists also. And I've heard the audio of that film footage right there about the wallet. But the jacket, this is where it gets interesting. The jacket is this white jacket that has inside of it. Yeah, there's the white jacket. They will later say that that is a gray jacket. And that is extremely important, folks, because it's not a gray jacket. It is a white jacket. And if you go back to the jacket of the color photo when we showed Larry Crawford at the beginning of that photo, look at that jacket that Hunley's going to put up right now that this guy is wearing. Now, this guy, Crawford, is wearing, this is the white jacket. This is a jacket that's exactly the same as that jacket that's found. Not the same jacket, because what he does is he goes out and he buys the same jacket, or else he has two of them. This is a Maurice Holman jacket, and I did the research myself on this many years ago. This was about 15 years ago. This Maurice Holman jacket was only sold in Hollywood, California. Inside that jacket, which is a size medium, Oswald only wore a small. Oswald had two jackets, a gray windbreaker and a heavier blue winter jacket, another cut-off jacket that his wife, Marina, the morning of the assassination, urged him to take because it was so cold in Dallas that day that she said, take your blue jacket, which he did. He took the blue jacket to the Texas School Book Depository. We know that because it was found on a windowsill a week later when he was working. That was his jacket that was discovered at the one he took, which was later also identified when he goes to pick up Wesley Buell Frazier by Linnie Mae Randall, Frazier's sister, who tells the FBI he was wearing a blue winter jacket. It's troublesome for the Warren Commission. So they've got to do something here about the jacket. Now, inside this jacket are the signatures that Eric's showing here of the various police
read the label.
I can't read. It's a little too small. What does it say?
It says gray zipper jacket belonging to Oswald, but that doesn't look gray to me. Does that look gray to anyone else?
Right. No,
it's
right.
Literally. Don't believe your eyes. That's gray.
They try so hard to make this into a gray jacket. And what they kept doing was showing black and white photos only. So the researchers kind of sussed this out. And the problem with the jacket was it had a laundry ticket in it and a dry cleaning ticket in it. The laundry ticket and the dry cleaning ticket were quite obvious, stapled into the bottom of the jacket. So the FBI, you can't make this up, folks. The FBI went to 700 dry cleaners in Texas and Louisiana trying to find the dry cleaner where this jacket was dry cleaned. Now, Oswald didn't dry clean his jackets because Marina and him were so poor that she admitted she hand washed his gray jacket and blue jacket by hand. They didn't send their stuff to dry cleaners. That dry cleaning stamp, this is the jacket that you're looking at here. That dry cleaning stamp, the reason they couldn't find that dry cleaning ticket was because it was from a dry cleaner in Hollywood, California, on La Cienega Boulevard, where the jacket came from and belonged, in my humble opinion, to Larry Laverne Crawford. That jacket was Crawford's jacket, and he took his jacket off to flee after the shooting of J.D. Tippit, my friends. Ruby was wearing a sport coat and a hat, which he always wore anyway, and that was identified by various witnesses as a guy with a sport coat and a hat who was a short, stocky guy. So you can't make that up. And, you know, they split and went in two different directions, according to the witnesses.
So who found that receipt again?
What's that?
Who found that ticket, that dry cleaning ticket, the source?
Myself. And that's Greg Parker down in Australia has that on his website from 10 years ago. That's my contribution. With the Maurice Holman jacket is my contribution to the JFK research community. That's my big contribution. But the reality of it is that Maurice Holman jacket is not Oswald's jacket and is a jacket belonging to Larry Crawford. And that puts Crawford at the scene of the assassination of J.D. Tippit. And that's troublesome. And that's why I believe Crawford fled Dallas that day. I think that morning, that's what we're getting into here, folks.
And no, here's where you see it color and black and white. So, however, people can argue that it could be a cream or something else, but I just don't see it as gray. However, you break it down.
The reality of it is that Oswald's two jackets. Now, keep in mind, when he goes back to the house, he puts on his jacket, and that's witnessed by the woman who he rents the room from. Puts on his gray jacket and tucks in his revolver and splits. Now, it could be that these two guys were going to the Texas theater to intersect with Oswald and execute him at the Texas theater, but were intercepted by J.D. Tippit at the 10th and Patton location. But that seems a little bit too out of the blue for my blood, because the Oswald phony wallet is immediately produced, and the automatic shells, the word goes out that Oswald's packing an automatic, not a revolver. That's also on the Dallas police recorded band, that they're looking for an automatic weapon, not a revolver, because of the shell casing. So I believe that was a weapon that was owned by Crawford, and that Ruby might have used the same, because there's different bullets inside of Tippit, Eric. And I think the coup de grace in the head is from Ruby's snub-nose 38 police special that he will kill Oswald with on Sunday night. That's my take on it. But anyway, so the reality of it is, this guy Crawford escapes to a cabin in the woods an inch over on the American side of the border from Canada. It had to be a plan for him to get up in there, to get into that cabin to wait this out. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't think a man in the dead of winter is able to hitchhike from Dallas, Texas to Detroit and Chicago and northern Michigan in a span of 18 hours. I just find that hard to believe. There's 18 hours missing from his testimony as to how he got from place to place.
Oh, come on, Mark. Everybody will pick him up.
Dude, I don't think anybody would pick that guy up. I mean, that is one weird guy.
Well, he looks like In Cold Blood from Truman
Capote. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And the Warren Commission, when you read the transcript of the thing, if you could take it, it's just question after question after question about a phone number. WA56232. Does that number ring a bell? Did the name Lefty Frizzell ring a bell? They're just asking about Ruby's phone book over and over and over again, and really nothing about himself. And it's almost as if they want to say they investigated Crawford and cleared him, is my Warren Commission interpretation of what they did here. Like, we put in 74 million questions to Crawford. We didn't shun that, and we cleared him. But as Griffin says, who will later become a judge, Bert Griffin, he was haunted by the question of why he fled. It made no sense. It made no sense. And nobody has an answer for it. Nobody knows why he fled, why he hitchhiked in the dead of winter to get out of there, and why he said he didn't want them to pin this thing on him, quote unquote. He didn't want to pin this thing on him.
Wow.
And the Warren Commission refused to release his military records, by the way.
Wonder why.
I wonder why. Sounds suspect to you people at home? Any dots?
Well, wait a minute. I'm sure they were released this past December, right?
No, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Nor is the taxes of Ruth Paine, even though Trump's taxes have been released. Ruth Paine's taxes cannot be released, but Donald Trump's can.
But didn't we call the White House and ask nicely?
We're supposed to call nicely, but they didn't buckle.
That sucks.
Right. Now, his own brother says he might have been a hitman. His own brother and him said that he was a hitman in San Francisco working for some mobsters up in San Francisco. I don't know if that's true or not. There's a lot of bullshit, obviously, coming out of this cat's mouth. But there's also a lot of smoke and a lot of fire, Eric, coming out of Crawford's mouth that has never been investigated. In fact, when the House Assassination Committee forms, they get a call from a guy who says, you got to look into Crawford. And that was Jim Garrison. And they just never do. They just never do. For reasons that I've never understood. Crawford disappears and resurfaces in the late 80s. The late 80s, he resurfaces up in Oregon. I mean, he is located and gives a couple of interviews to a couple of reporters up in northern Oregon where he lived. And he comes from a town called Dallas, Oregon. You can't make this up.
He feels comfortable.
He's from a town called Dallas, Oregon.
I love it.
And he's working in security up there into the late 90s, early 2000s, working in security. You know, I don't know what kind of security, but I got the feeling it was more than being a security guard at Macy's. You know what I mean? There was some other kind of security.
Corporate security, right?
Corporate security or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. But man, oh man, this Crawford story. And again, his ORD name is the spelling he went by for the rest of his life. The ARD spelling is what he used in Dallas. For anybody in the chat who says, yeah, you're idiots. We're not idiots. There's a different spelling, and we're using the ORD for a particular reason. At least that's the way I look at it. I mean, that's the real name. But ARD, ORD, Laverne, Curtis, Larry. Back in the old days, before there was an internet, people changed a letter in their name to avoid being found. That's why Jim Braden did what he did as Eugene Hale Braden to get them off the scent. So there's very limited things you could do to find someone back in the old days, but you had to have the proper spelling of someone's name.
Well, those were the good days where they could find somebody the right age who died and then go apply for a library card and pick up a new identity over time.
Right. So, yeah, again, I believe there are also some sexual stuff going on with Ruby and Crawford. He was kind of a male hustler, male prostitute, roustabout type who was involved in rough trade is what the word was on the street. Rough trade. That was his area. And he was, I don't know, like 23, 24 years old. He was roughly the same age as Oswald. So, as for his being his double, somebody went to that Buick dealership and took out a car. And it may have been Larry Crawford, who was going to the sniper range. In the movie, we see it as Frank Whaley doing it. Frank Whaley, the actor, playing the Oswald double, but that might have been Laverne Crawford. That might have been Curtis Laverne Crawford doing that, Larry Crawford, as one of the doubles. Now, I don't know if he's the double in New Orleans and when Oswald's in Minsk, but I think he's the double in Dallas. He's the double in Dallas.
Wow. Now, do we know what happened to him after security guard gig? Is he alive? Is he dead?
No, he died. He died in like 2003 or something. Natural causes. I mean, lived out his life up in Oregon.
Okay.
Lived out his life up there, and as did his brother and the rest of his family. And he had, a number of ex-wives and some kids scattered about up there. It's really an odd ending to his life. We'll just leave it at that because he just moves back to Oregon and disappears off the radar.
So living in obscurity.
Right. Again, the same thing happens with Michael and Ruth Payne. They moved to Northern California, live out their lives. I mean, he's dead, Michael. She's still alive in Northern California. Not unusual what Crawford did. If you look at the other assassination related characters in the storyline, they seem to move to remote places and live out their lives quietly.
Oh, I guess you would too.
Yeah. I mean, he may have had help from different sources, to stay alive financially. I don't know. I don't know how he stayed alive that long, but obviously involved in multiple weird things throughout his life.
Wow.
Anyway, that's what we have for today, folks.
And another fun
another chink, another notch in the belt, another dot in the series. Think about that one. I may have to watch this show again. I don't even know what I was talking about there. I may.
Me too.
Dude, even I'm confused by this story. There's so much meat on this bone.
All right. Well, we have Rumble Rant that I see. And let me see. Somebody is looking for help with locals. Miss Santiago, or Mia Santiago is given a Rumble Rant $10 for last Friday. And Mia is unable to access her locals account.
What?
Lost her password, etc.
I'll get right on that. You know what?
So go to support.locals.com. Hopefully there'll be an article on how to renew it. I don't know right offhand, but support.locals.com. I'm sure that there should be some kind of a password reset or whatever tied to email or what have you. Got a bunch of super chats in.
Oh, wow.
Well, thank you, John. I know that you're worried about my health, and I appreciate that. I love the show, but fear for the safety and well-being of the host. I know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to take care of myself.
Yeah, the host is being stalked across the country. The host is really in jeopardy. They could get the host at any second now.
This is one of Mark's favorite questions here from Ben Dover. What is your opinion on James Files? Love your show.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that at some point.
We're not in agreement with James Files. We'll just say that.
Put it that way. Although Limited Hangout might have used the fireball. That might have been a weapon. So we don't know.
Junior Mendoza for $2. Thank you.
Thank you, Junior.
Beverly Fitch. I've seen Beverly.
I
subscribe to you and Russell Brand, but I don't miss your show and rarely watch him. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's really kind. Oh, okay. Dustin, always motivated. Jumped the line at the grocery checkout. Knocked over a lady in a wheelchair, but made it in time for the show.
Out of my way, lady. I got to get to the bottom of this Crawford story. He's running down the street with milk and eggs breaking. I got to get home. Thank you.
Pasha, good point. I think actually when most people start out, they do not have teeth. Could be wrong, though.
They do not have teeth when they're born?
Yes.
I think this guy had teeth and something happened to him.
No, I'm guessing. It's Pasha. Come on.
Right. He's just fetching.
Yeah, well, because he was slow on the Yiddish word of the day.
That's right. That's right. We had to move on.
All right. 449 pounds, it looks like. Keep it up, boys. Durocon Elos. Don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
But I'm sure it's profound.
Oh, wait a second. This just in.
The convolution is starting early today from Pasha. South Texas gal. Love y'all.
I love you too. In a while. Welcome back.
Let's see. Sue Peterson. Oh, God.
Will
you talk about the dots between the Cubans connected to the JFK assassination and Nixon's Watergate plumbers? We may get into some other stuff later, but not immediately, I don't think.
A lot of Cubans. That's a generic term, Cubans. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of Cubans. There's Ted Cruz's dad is a Cuban, and we know what happened to Ted Cruz's dad. I mean, Trump outed him. That's not good.
Yeah, that was not his favorite.
Yeah, he didn't like Trump's. He didn't like Cruz's dad. He didn't like Cruz either, for that matter.
No, that really got Cruz upset. Craig, 5 pounds. Great show as always. Thank you. Donnie the Dude, thanks for the dots. You're very welcome. Right, that's great.
Yeah.
Gregory Petrelli, coming in hot. No question. Just $50. Thank you.
Whoa.
Harold, would love to know about Bill S. Estes from Houston and be about
Billy Sahl? What's it say?
Yeah. And B70 this year. Still remember BS Estes, but was about ammonia trailers and not missing grain. Love to hear more.
Yeah, we've covered this quite extensively in the LBJ episodes. You might want to take a look at those. Billy Sahl Estes obviously involved in the grain theft and the killing that follows the missing grain, which is in our LBJ episodes.
All right. And Justin Moore. Hey, Laverne, it's Ernest. Everyone needs a cabin in the woods to escape to from time to time in this crazy world. Hopefully not because of nefarious activity.
Right. That's a good point.
True.
That's a good point.
Very true. And look, Peter Cachito is back. Thank you very much. Super sticker. Someday you've got to ask a question, Peter.
Yeah, throw up a question, bro. You've earned it.
No kidding. Wow. Super, super generous. Pat M. Why 3 days investigation of Warren Commission, guessing several are real investigators on Warren Commission, others there to mislead? I think what you were saying, just kind of keep going at it. Oh, yeah, we asked them.
Right. I mean, again, they were notorious for asking stupid questions to run out the clock about Ruby's pubic hairs and Oswald's shaving habits and all these stupid questions that went around in circles. And then they said, yeah, we did a complete and thorough investigation.
All right. Texas Carrie. Hey, y'all. Enjoyed the dots as always. Thank you. And Pino shows helicopter tours. Always love that name. There were lots of dots today. I'm going to have to reach into my Priscilla McMillan books for a total and complete clarification of the cold truth.
That's funny. See, that guy's got a sense of humor. That's funny. That's funny. Nobody's more deep state than Priscilla McMillan. She ends up doing a book on Stalin's daughter who comes to the West. So she's got two major clients, Oswald and Stalin's daughter.
Well, that's like actually nice though. So she's deep state, us and them. Why be
no? But she defected to the U.S. Stalin's daughter,
right,
and ends up with a biographer named Priscilla McMillan. And as does Marina Oswald end up with a biographer, Priscilla McMillan, as does Oswald when he's in the Metropole Hotel in Moscow. A woman shows up to interview him when he's defecting in Moscow, named Priscilla McMillan. She's everywhere. Around. She's everywhere.
She gets around.
And she's in Max Good's wonderful documentary on Ruth Paine that I really recommend. Priscilla McMillan is cornered by Max Good.
He got her.
Eventually outed as a CIA journalist, author. One of the great moments in the film.
Yeah, he really got her. She's kind of like,
But it's the same thing with Ruth Paine. I mean, Crawford and Ruth Paine, they're the same. I mean, it's very similar situation. Although one could be a shooter, obviously, in terms of Crawford. But Ruth Paine, long-term survivor.
Justin Barboza thinks that Ruth Paine is hot.
Thinks that Ruth Paine is hot?
I guess. I mean, let's see.
That's a stretch. Okay, maybe the old, maybe in 1963 Ruth Paine.
Well, let's see. Okay, here's Ruth Paine.
She was tall. She was thin. She was, I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
So that's the house. I stood right there by that house, right where that mailbox is. So, there was nobody home when I was there. I don't know. It was closed. I don't know.
They knew you were coming.
They knew I was coming. They locked the door to that house when I got there.
All right. Well, on that note, if you want to help Mark with his studies, as you can see, they go deep into the weeds.
Yeah, I need those weed books. I need the weed studies books. And I don't mean THC. I mean JFK.
Actually, I just bought Mark a book this week.
Yeah, thanks. Eric went to the well to get me 6 Seconds in Dallas by Josiah Thompson, the original book, one of the original texts on the assassination. But there's others that I could use some help with purchasing. So if you want to help out, that's on PayPal. The link is down below.
Yep. And he also takes Venmo. You can always give me PayPal and Venmo. I won't spend it on a book. I will.
Oh, he bought me a book. I mean, that was nice.
Well, there you go. I might spend it on a book from Mark myself.
I bought another bear the other day from our merch department and a woman's T-shirt, I think. Not from me.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah. Did you see that?
One of these.
How do I get those Oswald drinking glasses? Or that's what I got to get those now.
Those are coming soon. Ziggy, our illustrious crafty person, has made some really great merch. I'm showing it at locals. I know I retweeted it I'll try to put it in the description here, a link to the site, but there's glasses, Valentine's cards.
Oh, yeah.
She's knocking it out. A lot of crazy stuff.
What about the Kennedy trading cards?
Kennedy trading cards are underway, and actually, under
construction.
Yes, I designed the basic images.
These are great. I'm going to get the whole set myself because I might forget some of these people.
Yeah, well,
we're going to have gum in there, like for the gum episode. Look at these people. You're going to have to get the whole. There's Bolden. Look at that, Abraham Bolden. Oh, look at that, Wesley Buell Frazier. Wow, he looked guilty. Oh, Clay Shaw. Wow, collect them all. Oh, the David Ferry card. That's going to be a collector's item, Eric. Oh my. Oh, that's Dinkin from last week. Eugene B. Dinkin.
Yep. And
there's the old General Walker.
I've gotten cards created for all of the shows that we have done. And I will continue to add as we go. As we go to the collection, we'll probably be selling them as sets of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then
will there be gum?
I don't know. It would be cool to have gum, but we'll definitely have like a factoid on the back about them. And even Jolly made the cut.
Oh, Jolly's in there too. How do you like that?
Yeah, for the Jack Ruby. He's a little.
Look at this guy. He's already got a card.
Hey, we were doing the episode. I wanted to be ready.
There's our old
Smiley.
Boy. Come on, Bobby. Come on, boy.
So anyway,
look at that, Mac Wallace. I like that card.
Yeah, we've got
we got a Ruth Payne card.
There we go. That's the set so far. As soon as I can get them put together, I got to get the facts written out on the back for all of them, and then we'll see about generating and selling them as sets of 5. And it'd be cool because as they go along, I'll keep adding to it. So we'll build another set of 5 when it's ready.
They used to have a thing where you took a penny and scratched off the answer to a quiz.
Oh, yeah. Remember that? Like lottery tickets.
Yeah. Almost. How many shots was shot at JFK and you scratched off? 17.
And then, of course, unstructured.locals.com. Please, follow us there. That's where I'm always putting things up, whatever. You can follow for free.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow for free. We, of course, love it if you support us. It's $5 a month, $50 a year if you want to be a paid supporter.
Right.
But you can always follow for free, and it's very helpful. In the days of creators getting taken out left and right, and things like that, it allows us to reach out and say, we're going to only be on Rumble this week or something like that. So, please consider doing it. If you're on Rumble, there's even a button right there saying locals, and you could just
right.
You could just
what about any news on the meetup with Barnes and Viva and that?
I am completely confused on what is going to happen there. It may wind up being in Vegas with Ricada too. I have no idea where it's going to be.
All right.
it's a complete.
Somebody should let me know at the end.
So you will be the last to know.
I'll be the last to know. And
got a couple more super chats. Roger Stone said in a recent interview there were 2 caskets. Might have been the interview with Viva.
Mm-hmm.
One with JFK's body went to the Air Force, and empty casket went on to Air Force One. Any truth to that? Would Mark shave his head for $1,000?
So. What's that?
I doubt it.
What's the last part you said?
They'll do a GoFundMe for you to shave your head for $1,000.
Who, you?
You.
What do I just shave my head for $1,000 for?
I have no idea, but I don't see it happening.
Anyway, I don't think there were 2 caskets. I think there was just the one, and the bodies came out of the Bethesda Naval Hospital school there. There were plenty of bodies. They didn't need to bring a body with them. They didn't. Somebody said they dumped it out of Air Force 2 into the ocean or something. I don't think any of that was necessary.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. This guy. If you have a lemon, make lemonade. Warren Hinkle mentions that Garrison found that the aerospace industry were the main sponsors of the. I don't know. We're still working that out. Ziggy's working on the merch now.
Okay.
Thank you, Ziggy.
In her garage, in the workshop, Santa's workshop.
No, she works everywhere because she's a dedicated person. Lane Amos became a YouTube member. Thank you very much. And did we create a card for Jumbo?
Yeah, I just saw. Oh, Jumbo is a separate card.
I don't think it would fit.
You know who might get his own card? Tusco the elephant. That would be a collector's item. The Tusco the elephant card linked to.
Well, that's something that. Well, I was talking to Mark about all this. I doubt Pasha would definitely shave his head for $1,000.
He doesn't have any hair. Yeah, he doesn't.
I know it's not really a threat. I thought about going crazy with it, like the typical bubblegum cards, where you have some where there were a bunch, and then the rare ones, and they're random. But I don't think there's quite enough of an audience to pull that off yet.
Yeah,
because we're only at 50,000 folks. So
right. In the old days, there'd be like 35 copies of Johnny Callison of the Phillies that everybody had that nobody wanted. Everybody's looking for Mickey Mantle, but they've got 500 copies of Louis Alvarez or some cat from Oakland, that nobody wanted.
Who would be the nobody wants card here? Probably poor Eugene Dinkin, or
I bet you there's a pecking order of I don't want a Dinkin card, I want a Ferry, goddammit.
Tusco, the most popular card.
Right, Tusco may end up being the most popular card. We only make like 10 Tuscos, and we don't put them in. Dude, we just make the Tusco card the rare card. Then you also have a team checklist. You have to have a checklist that comes out with all the names, and you check them off. That's the team checklist. They used to have that at Topps for all the different players that you checked off that you got. So you got them all. Yeah, and then you got to have a team photo where they're all together in one photo. One card has them all in one card. The team collector's card.
And Anouk, how's the hand? Unfortunately, it's slow going, but every day it gets a little bit better than it was, I hope.
Right on.
But on that note, Friday is Freeform Friday. Hopefully, Alec Baldwin doesn't shoot anybody between now and then.
Well, if he does, we'll cover it. I mean, he's in a lot of trouble, Eric. I mean, you're talking about that gun enhancement for 5 years. That might be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And WeGoop, yes, you can buy the cards when they're done. They're not ready.
Not done yet. Yeah, take it easy there.
But soon.
I can't. What does it say?
If I can't complete the set, I might go Oswald.
No, you should be able to complete the set. I mean, we don't know what the pricing is, but
when we finish the episodes, because we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's the incentive. Don't forget Jolly for a card. We got Jolly.
We got Jolly in there.
All right. Well, everybody, we will see you Friday. Hopefully, we'll see you sooner in locals.
Oh, right. Yeah, just go over to locals. The Friday will be Freeform. I don't think Barnes and Viva are coming, but who knows with these guys? They show up whenever they want to, these maniacs, and then just go crazy over certain issues that they're interested in.
Well, it is called Freeform Friday for a reason.
Yeah, it's totally freeform. Anything goes. Interrupt everyone.
And just try to hang in there.
Yeah,
because we are too.
Yeah, I'm going to do some push-ups.
See you then.
All right.